to the K.
To the K. Coming up tonight on the Ringside Report.
So we have one, Tommy Dreamer releasing a statement on his controversial Dark Side of the Ring comments. We have Mia Yim giving a sort of update on her WWE status. We have Heath Slater returning to Impact after 11 months absence. We have Alundra Blaze releasing her autobiography coming 2023. We have the potential return of one X-Pac, possibly for the Royal Rumble. We have WWE ticket sales dropping without the presence of one John Cena. We have Matt Cardona retiring from Deathmatch Wrestling. Massive blow to that genre. We have WWE's Page being mistaken for Diamond Dallas Page. We have AEW announcing a partnership with the Owen Hart Foundation and they're set to hold an annual tournament in his honour. And we have AEW crushing WWE in ticket sales at the UBS Arena. And lastly, we have Keith Lee gaining a new nickname. Okay, bit weak sauce to end on that, if I'm honest, but we're going to mention it anyway. So, Carl, do you want to kick us off with the most controversial topic of the week?
Yeah. So, if by now you haven't seen the Dark Side of the Ring latest episode on the plane ride from hell, where the hell have you been? It's been the talk of the wrestling world now for the past week. There was some, obviously it's centered around a lot of hijinks that happened on that plane, but a lot of the backlash was faced by the Nature Boy Ric Flair, who basically a flight attendant was interviewed in the episode and basically spoke out about the treatment she suffered at the hands of Rick. So obviously he came out in his robe, nothing underneath, windmilling his penis, and effectively trapped her in the the lobby section, I guess. I don't really know what it's called. And basically she says, the galley. And she said that he basically forced her to touch his penis, basically. So I know Ric Flair's come out since and denied these allegations. He's accepted the windmilling and said that was true, but said he never forced anyone to, touch anything. But Tommy Dreamer was filmed in the episode, basically. I think let me check the news article. I think it's got a bit of a transcript here. So he said he could move his hips, twirl it around, so his well-endowed penis spins around like a helicopter. So hey, he's the Nature Boy for a reason. He's got a hammer on him. Rick isn't going to try and impose by force any sexual stuff onto anybody. He's just flaunting, styling and profiling, doing the Ric Flair stuff where everyone's going to laugh about it. But obviously, someone took offense to it. So, he then went on to say, if that's how she felt, maybe she should have not taken a payout and went to the fullest extent of the law to then truly put this heinous person in jail, in my opinion. So, Tommy Dreamer faced a lot of backlash around his comments that he made.
I could be wrong on this, but I feel like, certainly from what I was getting on social media, he seemed to be getting more backlash than Rick.
Yeah.
Because, he was basically, because Rick was staying silent until very recently, which we can talk about. Rick was staying silent on the matter, and Tommy Dreamer was outspoken about the situation, so everyone was going for Tommy Dreamer, who basically was like, Rick did nothing wrong. And I was a bit like, hang on, so, aren't more people knowing about the actual suggestion of sexual assault?
It's one of them. Tommy wasn't present during that moment, so he doesn't really know. I think, his tone, the way he said the things he said, and basically insinuated that she was lying and it was just after a payout. He wasn't close enough to the situation to even comment on it, in my opinion. So I think the fact that he did...
I would agree with that. I think he's probably been a bit too asinine about the way he's come across. That she should have gone to the fullest extent of the law. There's a lot of factors and a lot of pressure as to why she probably didn't, even if it was true. And I have to say, even if it wasn't true, because obviously it's been totally denied by Rick. and we'll never know. Really, we're not going to be privy to that sort of the truth of the matter, unfortunately. But if it was true, there's still so many factors that would have pressured her into a situation where she wouldn't have gone to the fullest extent of the law. So I think that comment alone is probably enough to be like, shut up, Tommy. You know?
Yeah, I just think, yeah. Shut up, Tommy.
I shouldn't laugh, right? But I find it's such a really fucking weird world being a wrestler, right? When the argument essentially boils down to like, no, I was just walking up and down the aisle, windmilling it. I didn't make anyone touch it. It's like, so that's your defense. You had the willy whopped it out, but you weren't actually doing anything else. Brill. Like that's your defense.
Yeah.
Nice one. Like, it's so strange because like in any other scenario, if you got it out and started spinning it round, they'd probably still go to the police. But like,
yeah, I mean,
that's what he brings it back to, and it's like that's such a strange world, isn't it, wrestling? Because they're all like, oh, it's Rick, it's what he does. We all love it. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
It's like,
I mean, the thing is, it's very much like a locker room camaraderie between all the wrestlers, and it's the kind of thing that would happen backstage, probably frequently, as well as many other fucking crazy things that happen in the world of wrestling. But it does become a very different tale when you're on a commercial flight and you've got people outside the wrestling world there, and you're trapping somebody in a galley potentially and windmilling them and making them feel scared. And obviously the story that the flight attendant told was that obviously she felt shame after it and was like, did she do something or give wrong signals that made him think he could do that? She ended up having a bit of a falling out with her husband, and basically Tommy to then come out and be like, oh, she's lying, she accepted a payout, it's all for press. He doesn't know anything about it, so he shouldn't be, he should keep his mouth shut, really.
No matter whether you can, because again, we'll never know the truth of the whole, the alleged like forced touching, but
yeah,
she was still in a very difficult, very shit situation for nearly 9 hours with a bunch of drunken people who were out of control.
Exactly, and it's like it's one of them. Like, I'm sure Tommy didn't mean it maliciously. He was just speaking up for the character of Rick, and Rick's come out and denied it as well. Like, we weren't there, we don't know, so we can't say either way either. But
yeah,
I
think like you say, he's probably just been guilty of not wearing it as well as he could have.
Yeah. The only thing that we can, obviously comment on is the fact that, the whole windmilling incident, which Rick has come out and now said that did happen, but denied the other stuff. So obviously that in itself is bad enough, to do on a commercial flight when you're not just with the boys in the locker room, you're with obviously other people and people who don't necessarily want to be seeing that go on. So that in itself is bad. But obviously Dreamer did say them comments on the show. He was ultimately suspended by Impact. They came out and said that his comments were out of line with their core values, so he was suspended indefinitely. But Tommy did come out and release a statement that read, regarding my comments made on Dark Side of the Ring, it was never my intention to offend, hurt or victim shame anyone. I understand my comments were insensitive and could trigger emotions in someone's own personal past. I do not condone sexual misconduct of any kind. I apologise to anyone I offended. From the bottom of my heart, I am so sorry. So, fair play to Tommy. He has, owned it. He's realised that what he said may not have been, the most appropriate thing to have said, and he has come out and issued an apology. So, remains to be seen what happens next. Whether Impact do, bring him back and things like that. But yeah, it's certainly caused a lot of controversy and put this back into the public light very firmly. I would say.
And it's not that it was ever acceptable. I don't mean it, but it's put up light in 2021. So it's gonna get a totally different reaction to what it would have back then had it have had a similar light shine on it.
Yeah.
But it's the way of the world, and again, it doesn't make it any better. Or anything, what I mean? It's just the times we live in now compared to the way they were. I think it's worth mentioning, and we won't go into too much detail because that's not what this news bit was about, but Rick has released statements. I think you mentioned, Carl, that he completely denies that element of it, but doesn't deny sort of the bulk of the antics on the plane and obviously strutting around and windmilling, as it were. And, he's, again, just for info, really, the backlash so far for Rick seems to have been WWE's sort of pulling ties. They've removed him from their website, even from the alumni page by all accounts at present. They've removed his merch and the likes off the store as well. So they seem to have reacted. We've yet to see if AEW have reacted because it was only speculative anyway. So we'll never know whether that was the plan or whether they backed away from it, which is interesting.
That's going to be the interesting thing, isn't it? You know, he was slated to potentially come up and, you know, work with Andrade. So let's see if he does make an appearance. Then,
in some respects, though, it'd probably be the right call not to do that, because the big Ric Flair reaction that they were gonna get, they're not gonna get now. The crowd aren't gonna react very well to that at all.
Yeah.
So it's probably one of them where they might be better just backing away from something that at this point was only rumoured anyway.
Yeah. So that was news story 1 this week.
Yep, and then we're going to stay way the fuck away from that now. So the next one, Carl, is not much of an update, but an interesting one to talk about. So you might recall Mia Yim hasn't been seen on WWE since Retribution broke up. And a lot of people were speculating, is she going to go back to Mia Yim? You know, what's going to happen? It was rumoured she'd been moved over to SmackDown after Retribution broke up. Interestingly, and I know they're not particularly savvy with their website unless something controversial happens, but she's still listed as Reckoning on WWE's website, so there's no suggestion of any sort of updated gimmick change. And a lot of people have gone, like, what's going on? Is she injured? You know, that sort of thing. And in terms of an update, all she's put is, on social media, I'm not injured. So she hasn't said what the deal is, but she's said quite clearly that she's not injured. The heavy suggestion is that basically she's there and WWE have got nothing for her. The last time we saw her, in fact, was on WWE's main event up against Nikki Cross, where she took a loss, and we just haven't had her on TV since. But the suggestion that she's not injured would suggest that it's a WWE decision, and they've got her in catering, as it were, as the old term used to be. What do you make of this one?
Yeah, I think obviously for her to come out and say, you know, address that and be like, well, it's not because of an injury, does imply the fact that, yeah, they've got nothing for it. But, yeah, I think, you know, her and Keith have seemed to quite enjoy, you know, posting these kind of updates to fans and drawing a lot of speculation for whatever reason. So,
I know she's thinks she's going to be like, I'll update you all soon.
Trying to find the right way to do it, though. Turns out just say it in the end, yeah, Sam. But no, I think obviously it's a shame. She's really talented. She did really well in NXT. So, you know, Retribution didn't work out, but that doesn't mean that she shouldn't, you know, have a place there. Like, you know, if anything, send her back down to NXT. You know, she seemed to do well there, but to be on the main roster and just sat there doing nothing just seems like a waste. So, yeah, hopefully we get to see her again soon in some capacity, and it doesn't just lead to a release because, you know, they've got nothing for her. So we will see.
Crazy times at the minute for WWE, especially again, they've gone back to booking the women, absolutely shocking. So
yeah,
I think there's so much potential, especially if she has been moved to SmackDown. How the fuck she's not being used there, I do not know.
Yeah, mental. So the next one to talk about, a familiar face returned to the Impact Wrestling Zone, if you want to call it that, as part of the tapings this week. So Heath Slater, as he was formerly known, just known as Heath in Impact, has made his return. Obviously, he's been sidelined for quite a while now with serious injury. So he is now back. He's made his return to television at the Impact tapings. So yeah, just a bit of a short one really, but made up for him because he's been trying for so long to get diagnosed with what exactly was wrong with him, what was causing him the issues and stuff like that. So yeah, fair play to the guy. Hopefully he is on the mend. Hopefully, you know, there's no further injuries to him, and hopefully we get to see him back, you know, on a permanent basis soon.
Indeed, I think he deserves a solid run because he's been unfortunate as he got released by WWE. He was having a solid run in Impact, and then obviously been plagued with injury. And I'll say, obviously, like you say, we're not too sure what's going on at the minute, but I don't know. I think it'd be good to see him, like you say, back and just having a good run and doing what he enjoys. So, Carl, my next one, right? Alundra Blaze, now known as Medusa, has announced through a press release of sorts that she is going to be releasing an autobiography in 2023. Now, on top of the fact that would be interesting anyway. I mean, she's like an absolute legend in the business, and she's been there through just absolute years. She worked for multiple companies. There's loads that you could garner from this autobiography. It's very interesting for wrestling fans. But she's very specifically pointed out some elements that make you wonder how controversial this book could get when it comes out, because she's mentioned about she's going to be uncovering the misogynistic world of professional wrestling and talking about the harassment and abuse she dealt with during the course of her career. She's going to be talking about being released by WWE and a relationship with Vince McMahon. The whole scenario, you might recall, when she was released, Carl, she was still the champ at that point. She actually, the now infamous segment on WCW where she threw the title in a trash can and set fire to it. Did she set fire to it? Am I making that bit up? Pretty sure
put
she
it in the
did,
bin.
right? Did she? Okay. I'm just used to things getting set on fire then, I guess. And yeah, so it seems like it's going to sort of deep dive into some of the nitty gritty of those sort of relationships and that sort of approach that they had to women back in the day. And for me, I think it'd be an interesting book. Just generally, I think she's an interesting person. She's been in the biz for that long. That it's got to be. It's almost a must read in that sense. But when you just think, oh, this could be like, this could, set up a lot of WWE controversy again. Do you know what I mean? Depending on what she may or may not say, because we know how Vince can be from other sort of suggestions and that we've had in the past. I mean, very recently with WWE as well, we've had everything like, look at the whole Mickey James thing, the whole trash bag situation, the way Maria Kanellis has talked about them, Lita being sort of outspoken about the whole live sex acts and stuff like that. It's not been a good run for WWE when they're being talked about sort of historically with women's wrestlers. So I think this has the potential to be another one of them on top of everything else. But I mean, I'm definitely not read it.
No, definitely. I've got all the time in the world for Medusa. I think she's fantastic. I think it's going to be an interesting, look into the behind the scenes world. We've seen already this week, quite recent times what the wrestling world was like. So, it was even worse back in like the 80s and early 90s. So, I think it will be very interesting of a read. It's mad. It seems to be almost to become a meme in like the world's worst way, but don't sell it. That's what seems to be the thing that's coming out of it. The amount of shit that a lot of people endured, men, women, of all different kind of creeds, just and being told not to sell it. Don't show your emotion. Don't show that it affects you. So if she's trying to look at like the misogynistic time she had in the wrestling business, I think there's going to be potentially a lot of stuff around that of where stuff's happened and she's been told to just no sell it and move on. So
I think it's an interesting thing going forward, really, because I think the more people who've been empowered to pull away from that mentality of don't sell it, and to sort of the more people who are being outspoken, the more it's encouraging others to speak out as well.
Yeah.
I mean, we literally had the speaking out movement, but this is like you say, these are some real, and no disrespect to people who've spoken out up to now, but like we're getting to this point that there's some really big names that make some really sort of big headlines, I suppose, when we do like talk about these things. So it's I don't know, it's very interesting what's coming to light, and it's not stuff you want to hear. You don't like it because obviously these are people that potentially you idolized as kids and stuff like that, and you hear in like a darker side of it, not to coin the whole dark side of it, but you hear in the darker side of it all now as adults, and it's it's not great, but it's only right, I suppose, that it's now being spoken about and it's being treated like less of it. You don't deal with it, you just keep it quiet. It's not the right way to be anyway. No,
defo. So I think it'll be an interesting read when it comes out, and hopefully she didn't go through too much of a traumatic time. We'll have to read it and see. So, the next one to talk about, Anthony, Sean Weltman, X-Pac himself. Is he going to return to the ring? Is the kind of big question at the moment. So, basically, a post that he made went pretty viral in terms of how good he looked, in terms of his physique.
He is looking jacked.
He is. He's clearly
I know
put
he
a lot
still
of
makes
work
Triple H, but whatever advice he took from Triple H is working, right? Because Triple H is another one who looks insanely jacked for his age. And,
seems to be. But yeah, obviously he's put a lot of work in. He's in fantastic shape, and obviously that's led to a lot of people going, "Well, are you going to make a return? You're going to get back in the ring?" So X-Pac basically came out and said, "To be honest with you, yeah, I'm not going out there and saying, yeah, I'm going to do this. I'm doing bookings. I'm going to book this or that. But let's see what I've got." He said, it feels pretty good. My last doctor visit a couple of weeks ago, probably a month or so ago, he said everything was coming along nicely. I thought I was a little behind because I took a little time off going to therapy and that, but no, he said, coming along just fine. We'll see. He goes to physical therapy again next week, and then he'll just go from there. So he said, just in case, I would like to be ready for the Royal Rumble. That's not something that's my main goal, to go and do the Royal Rumble. But if they called me, I would do the Rumble. I love WWE, and regardless of what's going on, I still, have love for them, and so I would like for them to be the ones that host my return matches. But if not, there's plenty of other people that will. So,
you know what? I think Royal Rumble's perfect for stuff like that. While we're on the topic,
yeah,
you've not got an in-ring career day in, day out. It probably will be legend appearances, and you can take a few bumps. Royal Rumble's perfect for it. It's always meant to have surprises anyway. It's just kind of part of it now, isn't it? And seeing a legend rock up. It was even fun. A couple of years ago, we saw Jeff Jarrett turn back up.
Yeah.
Why the fuck not? Because it's a small segment. You take a bump, you go over the ropes down. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's just fun. You get to see them. So I'm all for them. I'm all for seeing them in the Royal Rumble.
Yeah, me too. I think, however you feel about Sean and his contributions to the business and his personal troubles and demons and all that kind of good stuff, he's been around the business for a long, long time. 1, 2, 3 Kid all the way to Six-Pac, X-Pac. He's been through all of it. So, NWO, DX, he's a legend.
It's one of them. For me, if you can look at Shawn Michaels and go, oh, he's a legend, and you can forgive all of his controversies, then you can do the same with X-Pac.
Oh God, yeah. Shawn Michaels is a million times worse.
Personality-wise, seems to be a bit more Marmite for some reason, but I don't really class him as much. Shawn Michaels has been just as obnoxious back in the day as well. So, for me, why not? Why not? He deserves that respect. He's a legend in the business.
Yeah, I agree. I would much rather he came back at a Royal Rumble for WWE than rocked up on AEW or something like that. I just don't think that would be the right fit.
I think for me, I know he spent a lot of time away from WWE, and I know he had a lot of issues and controversy with WWE. But for me, for how I feel about him, he's a WWE guy. It fits better there. But obviously, DX and X Factor to a lesser degree.
I had everything I ever wanted.
I know you know that more of that than I did. I only ever remember that first with the X Factor, and I don't know anything after that.
So I think the one I was singing was the first theme he had, and it was like a proper boy band opener. It was like, I had everything I ever wanted, and I won't be like that because you see X Factor, burn, and it went into the music then. So yeah, that was the first one.
Classic.
There you go. I'm available for bookings, bar mitzvahs, weddings, anything.
This reminds me, to be honest, high school, you were the guy who had the theme musics. This will be weird for anyone who's considerably younger than us who's listening to the show, who's always had access to digital media, but there was a time that was Carl's got a CD with the songs on.
I used to buy all the WWE The Music volume CDs. I remember there was a guy who went round our school and he was selling CDs with all the songs on, and I was like, oh, that's amazing. And then I bought it off him and went to play it on my CD player because I didn't have a computer at the time, and it just didn't work, and I was like, what the hell? And he's like, they're MP3s. I'm like, what are they? So there you go. That's how old I am.
Sorry, little trip down memory lane there, but you're singing the songs, it's brought it all back out. It's like I'm in the drama room all over again.
Oh yeah.
Right, so the next one, Carl. The next one. Did you know WWE ticket sales, Carl, to say it properly. So, ever since John Cena returned, not too long ago, was also the return of WWE's house shows and various other bits and bobs. And John Cena, when he made his return, although it was short-lived, he wanted to be fully in it. So he was hitting house shows, he was hitting weekly shows, he He was putting time in for the short period he was there. So you never knew if you were going to get to see John, and that had a positive impact on their ticket sales. However, it was clearly because of Mr. Cena, because since John Cena's departure from the company again to go carry on in the world of Hollywood, WWE have seen a steep decline in their ticket sales. So this is really just to talk about that. Like, WWE are almost quite obviously, so it's kind of not news, struggling, and apparently in some cases having really bad sales without Cena. So whilst we've still got like a potentially really good SmackDown most of the time, and Roman's really killing it in what he's currently doing, we brought Brock back, it just hasn't had the same impact as having Cena there, and people want Cena is still a draw and always will be, basically.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. He came back and they had their biggest shows in a long time, and I think he made a massive difference as well when he was back. I think I raved over it because it was something which I felt like we'd been missing, which goes to show what a poor job we have done at building new stars, because as soon as Cena was back and was on the mic, you felt like, okay, this is a main event dude. And it's like a lot of the guys got on the mic now, and you're just like, okay. Well,
I'm not being any disrespect to other legends there, because they are definitely worthy of like the respect, and they are legends. So I don't mean it the way it might come across, but like it shows you how much of a draw Cena was and still is, though, that they've pulled people back like Edge. And whilst people love to see Edge, you and me are made up to see Edge. Like, it's been Cena who people have been like buying tickets for. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I find that quite interesting, because it just shows you what a star he was and still is in some respect.
Yeah, and I think obviously, he's not on the scale of The Rock, is he? But he's now transitioned into, TV and movies and stuff like that. So, there'll be more casual fans who are like, I know him from Transformers.
He's a few steps behind The Rock. Like, we're probably going to be in at least another decade before we get young Cena, but he's following in the same footsteps, isn't he?
That he is. So, the next one to talk about, Anthony, Matt Cardona. Some really sad news, actually. It's a very sad day. So, Matt Cardona has officially announced that he has retired from deathmatch wrestling. And all joking aside,
by many as the deathmatch king, is a really sad day for deathmatch wrestling.
To be fair though, all joking aside, I'm honestly gutted. I think he did such a fantastic job. I said many moons ago, if you can get over it in, ever, then you can get over again. You have the capability. Matt Cardona got over as Zack Ryder, and then he got over again in a whole different level now as Matt Cardona. So the guy proved that, he's got it. And I think the way he handled the whole GCW thing and his feud with Nick Gage and, King of the Death matches and redoing the whole title and making it a spinner and everything, he was fantastic.
He was working that crowd, something shocking.
Yeah, and fair play to the guy.
A crowd that are typically more volatile than most. That it was impressive. The heat he managed to get from them was awesome.
Well, exactly, fair play to the guy. He doesn't need to be going in there and doing death matches and getting, obliterated with glass and staples and everything else.
Honestly, he could have probably finished his days out being formerly Zack Ryder from WWE and doing signings and appearances everywhere. He doesn't have to put himself through that physicality at all.
But he absolutely owned it, didn't he? I'm a huge fan of what he did, and I think he's a bit of an unsung hero. I think because there was a time when him, CM Punk, and Daniel Bryan, as he was known in WWE, were the most over guys in wrestling at one point, believe it or not. And then it's mad that everything that's transpired since then. You come back to 2021, and to a degree, the same three guys are the most over again. So. Yeah, massive respect to him for everything he did and just the way he handled himself as the champ.
I think we can both agree, though, it's surprising that he's retired. And for me, it's surprising that he dropped the title as quick as he did, and to who he did as well.
Yeah.
All of those elements are quite surprising. So I thought this was building somewhere. I thought there was going to be a rematch or something. So to hear that he's retired is actually quite a shock.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't even defend it, really, did he? Let's be honest. He went through all that stuff. He won it. That caused all the shock. He was doing all the social media posts where he took it to Disney and then he made it a spinner and redesigned the whole belt. and then it was just like his next match he lost it, and then it went back to the old belt, and it was like,
I think he might have defended it once before Marcelino.
Okay. So twice then.
In any case, it was a very short stint.
Very short stint. So yeah, so bit of a shame to be fair, because I thought he absolutely bossed it, but it's what it is.
Yeah. So Carl, next one, just a little bit of fun, and was taken with the right level of humour as well by the person who was involved, and that is one WWE's Paige. And you might be like, what's going on here? Well, I'll tell you, Carl. A magazine known as Metal Sucks, which is not one I'm familiar with, if I'm honest. We're doing an article on Paige's boyfriend. One, I keep pronouncing the surname wrong. Let's do it right. Ronnie Radke. I'll go with Radke, right? And so they were obviously doing an article on him and his band, and referred to the fact that he is engaged to WWE superstar Diamond Dallas Page. So obviously this led to like a bit of a chuckle, because obviously whoever wrote the article wasn't overly familiar with WWE and the fact that the Diamond Dallas Page is a different person to Page. So this led to a little bit of humour, and again, Paige picked up on this, obviously, having read the article about her fiance, sorry, and she actually put on her social media, I'm going to need to speak to the manager of this magazine. But again, taking it on a stride, got a lot of responses from the wrestling community, and just taking in good humour. But yeah, we got to a point now that there's memes everywhere. In fact, I even saw your meme, Carl, crop up a couple of times of the it's actually still on our Instagram somewhere, isn't it? The Page one.
Diamond Dallas Page.
Yeah. And it was I've seen that being used a couple of times, but a lot of people superimposing DDP's head onto Page's body and vice versa now. But yeah, just I think she even from a little faux pas in a magazine.
I think, to be fair to her, she even went live on her Twitch stream this week and was like, DDP is live now. And it's just like, yeah. So yeah, definitely taking it in a stride. Yeah. But, terrible. I mean, what kind of magazine is that? Do you know what I mean? It doesn't take much to do a little bit of research.
But a little bit of research.
That's the bare minimum.
Write the name DDP and you see your fucked up.
It's like, how do you go, oh yeah, he's dating Paige from the wrestling. Oh yeah, I remember Paige from the wrestling. It's like, did you not think, wait a minute? Do you mean what? Baffling.
It does make you wonder if someone's gone, wow, him and Diamond Dallas Page, really? I would never have known that. And they just wrote the article.
More power to the guy. Yeah, madness.
Well, yeah, so yeah, just a little bit of a fun one, that, Carl. But yeah, a little bit of a faux pas for Metal Sucks magazine there.
Absolutely. So the next one, Anthony, I'm super excited about. This is our main article this week, as far as I'm concerned. Fantastic piece of news that broke this week is that AEW has announced a new working relationship with the Owen Hart Foundation to honour the legacy of the late, great Owen Hart, which I think is fucking fantastic. I am so made up.
Indeed.
As we know.
Absolutely awesome. I'll mention this briefly now before we finish talking about it, because I don't want this to be the focus of it, but a lot of people concentrate on the controversies of WWE and the whole situation there. But the bottom line is, Owen Hart's widow did not want WWE and did not want them involved, and that relationship never happened, right? And if you pull that to one side, and I don't want to talk about the whole politics of WWE versus AEW or any of that bollocks, right? It's awesome to see this kind of partnership come to fruition.
No, it is. I think Martha gets a lot of shit for the fact that she won't let Owen go into the Hall of Fame and stuff like that. And it's not that she didn't want to remember Owen's legacy in wrestling. She just felt the company he worked for were to blame for his death. That's always been her stance on it. So why would she let the company that she feels caused his death, honor him and put him into their Hall of Fame? So that was never going to happen.
And it's the thing, and it's no argument to have. That's how she feels.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how anyone else feels in terms of whether you disagree with they caused that or not. That's how she feels, and she's
it's one of them. It got really personable as well. I know her and most of the Harts fell out about it. I think even her and Brett fell out about it. I think Brett wants Owen in the WWE Hall of Fame. the end of the day, Martha controls Owen's estate, and she doesn't want it to happen. But what I am, super happy and thankful for is the fact that we are going to get to see him honoured in the wrestling business, and that's the main thing. Regardless of whether it's the WWE Hall of Fame, whether it's this, it's
you know what,
it's
like,
the fact of keeping his legacy alive.
I'm super excited about, like, obviously the Owen Hart Foundation element of it and what they're going to do for that, and the eyes they're going to draw to it, money they're going to draw to it is fantastic. I'm super excited about the tournament. I love a good tournament anyway, but to do it in his honour, awesome.
Absolutely. So, do you remember ages and ages ago, we broke a story? I say we broke like we were the first ones to report it, but we commented on a story of the fact that AEW trademarked King of Hearts, obviously HART, and we were like, what does that mean? Maybe it's a tournament, maybe it's going to be something which honours Brett or Owen or that kind of thing. And we speculated about that way in advance, and it went completely quiet.
People picked up on a trademark, but it was quite silent after that.
Yeah, so obviously when I saw this news, I was like, okay, so what we reported on was right, that's what they're going to do. And then as you look into it, that doesn't seem to be the case. So they are going to have an annual Owen Hart tournament, but it's going to be called the Owen Hart Cup, and the cup will be known as the Owen. So it is going to be an annual, unless they have an event called King of Heart, maybe, that they haven't announced. But the actual tournament itself is going to be the Owen Hart Cup.
I mean, there's also the possibility that they've sort of hedged the bets and trademarked something that they might use and they don't ever use it. We've seen it happen many times.
Or it could be, I think as part of the deal with the Owen Hart Foundation is that there will be some merchandise and there will be some action figures and stuff available. So maybe it's something to do with that as well. But obviously,
like a slogan and thing.
Yeah, I just think it's absolutely fantastic, and I was so made up when I read this. I was blown away, to be honest.
Do you think, and this is slightly off topic, but do you think we have the potential to maybe see Owen Hart in the AEW video game?
I believe we will. I believe that is part of the deal. So yeah, I think it would be lovely if they managed to get Brett involved as well in some capacity to, be the guy who gives the winning person the cup.
I mean, the potential's there. Like, Brett obviously unveiled the AEW title way back when, so the relationship is kind of there with AEW.
Well, that's it. He's got a good relationship.
Martha is at the moment, but
I'd like to think the fact his relationship with Owen, has always been, so well regarded, and he absolutely loved his brother, that I'd like to think that he would be allowed to be involved in it in some capacity. But yeah, I just think it is absolutely amazing to have Owen Hart, remembered, talked about in the wrestling world again, because he was so good. He died far too young. He was such an exceptional talent. And yeah, I just think, if we are going to be able to see him in video games again and get action figures and, see him as, I'm a massive fan of the King of the Ring. This Owen Hart is a former King of the Ring. So for him to have, obviously, the Owen Hart tournament and ultimately the the cup at the end of it, like the Owen, I think is what a lovely way to honour them. Like, AEW are proper winning. They've already won me over, but like stuff like this that they keep doing, you can't not love them for it. So yeah, I'm just absolutely over the moon with the announcement and over the moon with the fact that we're going to get to see Owen Hart's legacy live on, and hopefully they're able to use some. It's going to be a hard one, actually, in terms of, I don't know what Martha kind of owns from his estate, but if there's any kind of video and stuff like that and things that we get to see going forward, then I think that'll be wonderful as well, because it'd be great to just remember who he was. So obviously he was a fantastic...
Thing, I think, because of the controversy and because of the situation, and again, I totally get where she's coming from, because that's sort of how she feels. I kind of get where Brett's coming from as well, because he holds the Hall of Fame in the higher regard, that he wants his brother in there, and I get that too. But for us as fans, there's been such an absence of Owen, like in terms of historically or mentioned or even legend, because WWE avoid that topic. And it's a crying shame because of that. So it's going to be absolutely fantastic, like you say, to see that sort of information or sort of legacy, that sort of merch come out again. Be great.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, made up with that news, and yeah, can't wait to see what they do. I hope it happens soon. I'd love to see it.
Indeed. So the next one, Carl, moving into AEW sadly. We have they've now going head to head. Not in the thing, Carl. They've both got the UBS Arena in Long Island booked, obviously for different dates. But it's led to people comparing ticket sales. Now, this information will be slightly dated. I'm sure the ticket sales will have changed since then. But at the time that I noted this, there was a stark difference in ticket sales, with AEW so far selling, and again, this number will have changed drastically since when I say so far. At the time, AEW had sold 6,100 tickets for their show, compared to WWE's shows only selling 2,500 tickets. Now, there are other factors to this, Carl. Obviously, WWE's tickets cost more. Their shows are longer. There are other factors that might put people off buying those tickets and going to those shows. So it's not just as simple as like AEW just kicking their ass. But it's interesting to see the stark difference in ticket sales for the same arena. And, you know, is WWE gonna reach capacity with it? Who knows?
I mean, I don't know how far apart the shows are as well. I imagine they're somewhat close if we're talking about it.
They're reasonably close. Let's see if I've got the date for AEW's. I know I've got WWE's. Sorry, just let me have a quick look. Because WWE are on November the 29th. Let's see if I've got AEW's. I've not. So it's somewhere near that in November, but I have not got the exact date for AEW's.
Okay, so I think that in itself is interesting, the fact that they are so close together. I'm massively surprised by this, because you look at the volume of watchers, and WWE gets significantly more people who watch the product. Like obviously you'll have so many people talking about the demo and what's really important, etc. But the fact is, more people, obviously, because WWE's been around forever, watch WWE. So the fact that in the same arena in a similar time frame, that AEW has had significantly more ticket sales is baffling to me, because I know it's cheaper. But yeah, like surely, like that won't be the only deciding factor.
WWE's an institution, right? They would naturally just sell more anyway. They've been around for absolute decades. Everyone knows WWE, and people would go just for the sake of it. Do you know what I mean? For how often they turn up in your town, kind of thing. So yeah, I'm quite surprised as well. But I don't know. I mean, cost could be a massive factor, because as I understand it, AEW's tickets are significantly cheaper than WWE's. But obviously they can be, because WWE's production costs are significantly higher, so they need to charge higher for the tickets. There's so many elements to it that change the sort of outlook on it, so you can't just compare the two head to head like that. But I think because of the drastic difference in ticket sales so far, it's interesting that they're so far apart, I suppose.
Yeah, I think it's interesting as well for people who won't look into the specifics of it, because they will just look at it and go, oh, AEW sell more than WWE. Even if they're like a WWE fanboy, they might go, it must be good then. I'll have to go and check it out. So, even from a news story standpoint, it's got to be good for AEW at this point. They've just signed CM Punk, and they've signed Bryan Danielson, and the like. So it's kind of like there's already going to be people from WWE fanboyism who are like, okay, these guys, I want to go and see them, but I'm such a loyalist, I can't possibly cheat on WWE. And it's like, well, eventually
Daniel Bryan leaving.
Well, exactly. Eventually, they might turn, and I think news stories like this might make people think again and go, well, wow, they're out. I need to watch it then, because maybe I've been a bit unfair, and then they'll end up watching it, and who knows, they might like it, or they might go, nah, it was shit, just like I thought it always was. Each to their own. But yeah, I think it's early days, as you said. The numbers may have changed. By the time we're reporting this, who knows? WWE might have sold out. It's one of them. It's obviously early days with it all, but I don't even know when the tickets went on sale. We don't know what we haven't got all the data. But the fact is, we know AEW sold more. It might have gone on sale 3 months before WWE, but I doubt it. Hence why it's a news story. So yeah, it's interesting to see where it goes, and if AEW managed to actually outsell WWE when all is said and done, then I think that's a massive achievement for them.
And you know what? I know you're a stats nerd, Carl, but for fellow stats nerds out there, apparently if you go to A2theK website, or their Twitter even, This is where you'll be able to get some information on the ticket sales, so you'll be able to get some more current information if you want to keep track of what's going on here. But again, all they're giving you is the difference in ticket sales. They're not going to be able to tell you the factors of cost or anything like that.
I know I'm going to go there.
Find out, but
that website again, WrestleTix. I'm joking. They are not sponsoring the show. No, good to know. I am a stats nerd, so I will probably go and check that out, to be fair. But yeah, so interesting facts all around. But yeah, fair play to AEW. They seem to be killing it at the minute. And for a company so, in their infancy, I think this has probably exceeded everyone's expectations in terms of how well they're doing. So yeah, fair play. Yeah. More power to them.
Indeed.
So Anthony, the last piece of news this week, I'd say it was breaking. I guess it's fairly recent. So Keith Lee hasn't been on our screens for quite a while. He has, however, recently been in the live event scene. And somebody has posted a video on Twitter who attended one of these shows, and it looks like Keith Lee has got a new nickname, Anthony, I shit you not. Limitless Keith Lee, is now going by the name of, and this isn't a joke, this is not a joke.
We're not taking the piss.
Keith Lee is now going by the name Keith Bearcat Lee.
Yeah, that's right. I want to stew in this silence. I think it merits it. The fuck are they thinking?
Bearcat? What?
This is like one of them that I feel like somewhat like. Do you know when like? Do you ever remember that in Friends? Not to be too sort of referencey, but in Friends when Ross gave himself a nickname. He's like, what they were caught on? The Rossatron.
Oh.
And it's like, and it just kind of reminds me of that. I feel like Keith's gone. It'd be a cool nickname, and nobody wants to tell him that it's name. That's how I feel.
Bearcat. I mean, there's no way Keith Lee.
For someone who already had, I really liked the Limitless one. I thought that was that was cool, or just Limitless Keith Lee, or whatever. Like that as a nickname was pretty fucking cool. The whole Bearcat thing, I think someone's liking it, saying, well, it kind of suits him because he's nimble like a cat, but the size of a bear. And I'm like, okay.
No,
whatever.
It fucking doesn't suit him at all. It's terrible. No, Limitless is fantastic. Bask in his glory, fantastic. Bearcat. Yeah.
Some Nickelodeon bullshit right there.
Like what the actual fuck? Seriously, Bearcat. Bearcat.
And you slowly devolve into it to make an accent. I can't.
Bearcat.
So, yeah, for me, this is kind of up there with Murder Hawk Monster. It's like I feel like you've put stuff together to sound badass, but for me, they didn't need to. They're changing too much about Keith Lee. Keith Lee worked on NXT, and they're like, why are they pulling it apart now?
This is even worse than Murder Hawk Monster.
Bearcat. Oh, no, it definitely is, but it's kind of like a similar thing where I feel like they've gone, that sounds cool. Let's put words together and see what we get.
Keith Bearcat Lee. Really? Wow. Yeah. Even by their standards. Crazy shit.
Johnny Wolf Dog. Why not?
Well, exactly. So that.
It's from the same company that brought you Dewdrop as a name, so why are we even surprised?
It is true. Anthony, that was the Ringside Report. A lot of interesting pieces of news there, I think we'll all agree. Fortunately, not as somber as many, recent episodes of the show, which is, I guess you've got to be grateful for. But yeah, obviously, there's still the fallout of the Dark Side of the Ring plane ride from hell episode still all happening. And a lot of
the thing is, like, emotions are riding really high on that. I mentioned before, like, and we're going to stay way the fuck away from that. I'm not being too dismissive of it, but emotions are riding really high on that. And like, at the end of the day, people are going to have opinions one way or the other. I see so many people without Rick ever saying a word, just commenting to Rick like, "Oh, we know the truth, Rick," and so on like that. And think no one actually knows the truth. Like, obviously, Rick knows the truth, and that stewardess knows the truth. But none of us will ever know the truth as fans. So there's just, like, we'll get to a point, there's not much more you can say on it. We know there's some controversy there, and we're not going to get to know.
Yeah. No, yeah, it's, I'm kind of worried to see how it all plays out, to be honest. Obviously, I'm not going to lie, I'm a massive Ric Flair fan. If he gets cancelled and stuff like that off the back of this, then, it is going to be heartbreaking because I am such a big fan. But at the end of the day, if it
I
comes to
feel
light
like
that he has done
it-
stuff that is being claimed, then it's not appropriate, is it? So
I know what you're saying, but there's like I feel this is. I don't know how this will be taken. Apologies, and I don't mean it in any sort of way other than like what I'm trying to articulate as best I can. But I've had this debate right with my wife a couple of times now over R. Kelly, right? Because I get the principle of going, and I think it's still speculative with R. Kelly, but people are pretty sure he's a bad guy, right? But anyway, there's a lot of like speculation over R. Kelly. There's been a lot of cancel culture elements on it, and it's like people are like, oh, you shouldn't listen to his music, and I'm like, I like his music, right? I feel like you have to get to a point sometimes where like I almost feel like I'm being robbed of being able to enjoy something because of what his actions. Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
And I feel like there has to be a point when the art transcends the artist. Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
Like, apologies for just throwing random controversial things out, but let's say next week you find conclusive proof that Michael Jackson definitely did everything that everyone suggested Michael Jackson did. There's no denying it. No one can deny it. He definitely did, right? Let's say that happened next week. People still want to listen to his music.
oh yeah,
And should we be robbed of all that music because he was a horrible guy?
yeah.
Like, I'm a bit torn on it. And it's similar with Rick. Like, if you find out Rick's done some horrible things, it taints your view of him as a person, yes, but you should still be able to enjoy the legacy and what he put across in the ring.
Yeah. I think
despite him,
Yeah, the closest example that I can think of is Benoit. You can't deny the fact he had some fantastic matches. I would happily watch Angle, Benoit, Jericho for the European IC titles on the line. I would watch that a million times. I'm not put off from watching it. Like, I can't watch a Chris Benoit match. What he did was heinous and it was terrible, and the reasons
example, though,
why he may have done it.
Yeah, you can't condone what he did.
Yeah,
I know people have talked about his mental state at the time. You can't condone what he did. It was horrendous, right? But WWE's approach of going, well, we're going to totally scrub him from the record books. Then his actions have robbed you from being able to enjoy a match you really loved.
Yeah, I think
there has to be a point that the art transcends the person.
Yeah, I feel like as well, like, history is history for a reason. We need to. It needs to live on to learn from it and to grow from it. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, for them to just go, well, okay, but we're going to forget Benoit exists because then we're going to disassociate ourselves from him. It's like, well, no, you should still show his stuff, but then maybe just put like I don't know, just a bit of a little card up at the end of the match that you've watched or something, which offers advice and things, for people who's going through like.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, that's one thing that will happen. If they had a Benoit match up on the WWE Network, for instance, that will most likely cause someone who's watching it to consider what happened and what Benoit did. So, like, say, maybe some sort of disclaimer or something like that with it, or like, say, where they can get that information. But I don't know. I think, like you say, I'd be kind of saddened if it snowballs to a point that WWE keep up and remove anything Ric Flair related from the network, and essentially historically struggle to find anything. That would be a shame.
The thing is as well, right, and Flair's come out and denied all this anyway, right? This isn't new news. Everybody knows what Ric Flair has been like over the last 20, 30
Although,
years.
like, I will say it seems to be, because people know what Ric Flair's like. I mean, Ric Flair's whole gimmick was like being that sort of womanizing, playboy.
Think back, Anthony.
Flying,
go on. I was going to say, on our Instagram page, we posted a meme months and months and months ago where there was a picture that we thought was really funny, where Ric Flair's talking to a load of other talent, and we went, and then I whipped my dick out, and it's like that is a Ric Flair thing,
and
we're not condoning it or saying it's right.
No one's come back to that now, actually, and gone, this age well.
But I mean, the thing is though as well, there'll be people who've done stuff like that who will now delete that and go, oh, there might be a bit of backlash. It's like it's a meme, a joke about
interestingly though,
his character that he is.
I feel like somehow people didn't know.
Yeah.
Like, admittedly, I knew about I've always known about the plane ride from hell. I feel like Dark Side of the Ring illuminated a few things that I didn't know. Like the Scott Hall stuff, for instance, I did not know. And the suggestion of the actual physical assault that Ric Flair I didn't know. So
Yeah.
there's some elements that have cropped up that I didn't know about. But like you say, to sort of not know about any of it is surprising. And some people have been like that. They've not
And I
known
think-
about anything like that at all. And you're like, why?
The thing is, though, as well, like, obviously there is levels to it, right? You know, I think it was a surprise to a lot of people to find out what that, hostess went through. And obviously that is an absolutely horrible thing for her to have had to gone through.
Without a doubt.
But, right, that might have come as a shock. Everybody knows the story of Ric Flair naked, wearing nothing but a robe. So at what point does him fucking windmilling his dick become...
Remember,
you know what I mean? Like, that's just as inappropriate. If you're there now, fucking, in your office doing your day job, and some fella comes in windmilling his cock, you'd be like, okay, security, get him out, right? Because he's fucking, I don't want to see that, right? But everybody knew that he did that, so it's like...
I sent you a video before of something that was on the WWE network that's now been taken off. And it was Ric Flair, not that plane ride, I think it was back in the 80s, but another similar plane ride, in which he tells a story very similar to that. Admittedly, it's told in jest, and like the stewardesses are all over him and they're begging him to sort of whip it out. But it's essentially that story. Like you say, it's so well known, even Rick's told the fucking story on WWE programming. Yeah.
But I mean, it's one of them. We weren't there. We don't know one way or the other. I think people often see something and straight away latch on to, okay, this is the gospel truth. And it's like, well, we don't know. It's very easy for someone to put out a piece of material that paints somebody in a certain light, right?
Yes.
But then Ric Flair has come out himself and said, I agree, I did a lot of bad stuff. I didn't do that. So ultimately it is his word against hers, and we don't know. If he did it, then, oh my God, that is a heinous thing to do. If he didn't, then it's a whole different thing. But it's like, what? It's so easy to be, it's not innocent until proven guilty anymore. You're guilty until proven innocent in the current,
court of public opinion, innit?
Yeah. So it's kind of like, I don't know. I think for us, we try and do...
It's similar, like, look at the Scott Hall stuff. Like, Scott Hall's had to come out and say, I don't know.
Yeah.
Because he was fucked. Like, as a person, mentally, what he was going through at the time, the substance abuse at the time, he doesn't know what he did or said at all on that fucking flight.
And
he
again...
had to wheel him out on a wheelchair.
Again...
Right, just to get him out of the plane.
That is an easy thing for people who are, basically saying, oh, well, how can Ric Flair say he didn't do it? He could have been just as fucked up. And he could have been. But at the end of the day, nobody fully knows. You're taking, someone's word and you're believing it, which is cool. It's fine, but at the end of the day, no one really knows. And I think on this show, we try and do a good enough job of just being completely, objective and independent and not swaying one way or the other on these things, because ultimately we don't have all the facts. All we can do is, see what's being presented to us. So, yeah, if he did it, then obviously it was a completely heinous thing. If he didn't, then, but either way, I think Ric Flair's career, his legacy as a, one of the best to do it, I think should still, live on. I think...
I would agree with that. I think you still need to be able to enjoy that, no matter what. To me, that's like, let's face it, we found out fairly conclusively that Hulk Hogan is a racist.
Yeah.
Like, people are capable of change, but he clearly made those comments that the records have been out there.
Yeah.
But you still need to be able to enjoy Hulk Hogan's, like, the iconic Andre the Giant slam at WrestleMania, for instance. You can't scrub that from the history books, because we need to be able to enjoy that. Like, that's part of wrestling history. So, I more and more as I've got older, I've found that Hulk Hogan seems to be not a very nice person. But you try and ignore that, and you can still enjoy those parts, those elements. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, they say, don't they? Never meet your heroes.
Yeah, they do.
But
especially if you're a wrestling fan, apparently.
Unless your hero's Bret Hart, because I can't have any nicer words to say about that man. So yeah, but yeah, it's one of those. I think it's a very raw time at the moment where there's a lot of stuff going around, a lot of speculation, a lot of finger pointing and stuff, and at the end of the day, we don't really have all the facts. So I think, if you haven't seen the episode, go and watch the episode. It's obviously very informative. It's a very, it's a very sad episode in terms of what the air stewardess has gone through and is speaking about.
Blindsided a lot of people, because I think a lot of people were like, "Oh, you won't get much from this episode. Everyone knows about this," and it's just caused a way more of a storm than anyone I think expected, and more come out than people I think expected. So
Yeah.
It's been a hell of a one. But I think, in all fairness, I think, like you say, we've had a good talk on it now, and I think unless something different comes out, what we've learned so far, I think we'll draw a line under it there, like you say, because we're not going to know anymore until see what else happens, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, bit of a tangent at the end, but yeah, that was the Ringside Report. All the latest news, all the latest rumours, and all the latest controversies, apparently. So yeah, we are obviously going to the movies after this segment. We're going to talk about the absolute cinematic classic, The Wrestler. So yeah, join us for that, and we will see you then.
Hey everybody, this is Thunder Rosa, and you're watching or listening A2theK. A2theK.
A2theK.